Hey folks, this is Kalani. Patch 10.1.5 introduces a few new ways to gear up, especially for new alts or players who are returning to the game. There are also updates to give everyone more access to the highest tiers of gear available in Season 2, and plenty of opportunities to get some shiny transmog. With these changes, everyone should be able to get to item level 424 very easily, and there are more ways than ever before to reach that coveted item level of 447, which is one of the highest item levels you can get in the game right now. So there's something for everyone when it comes to new gearing options. Let's go through how to gear up in patch 10.1.5, how to very quickly and easily get up to that item level 242 mark and beyond, and then how you can get your hands on those higher item level rewards as well. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. We're going to work through the different gearing options kind of in the order of accessibility, starting with the stuff that's easier. So one of the newest open world gearing options we have in 10.1.5 comes from the Timerifts. Timerifts have two lines of rewards. Many activities are going to reward you with paracausal flakes. This new currency can be used to buy all sorts of goodies from the Timerift vendors, transmog, pets, mounts, tabards, but it's almost all cosmetic. The only gear you can buy with the paracausal flakes are the various new trinkets. Some of these are pretty strong, some of them are kind of bad, so I would check your class guides on Wowhead or Discord to see if any of them are good for you. They're probably going to be better than a trinket you have left over from leveling, so if that's all you've got going for you, these trinkets should be a nice little upgrade. For any other kind of gear slots, you are going to need to visit this specific vendor. They have gear for almost every slot, including weapons, but it does use a different currency, dilated time capsules. Every time you kill a Rift boss, there's a chance for you to get a dilated time capsule, and if you come across an encapsulated destiny, you can use these to guarantee a reward from the Rift boss, so that kind of helps if your RNG is a little bad. All of this gear is item level 402 and it starts on the veteran track at 1 of 8, which means it can be upgraded to item level 424. So for each and every dilated time capsule you get, you can buy a new piece of gear of your choice. There's also a weekly quest for the Timerifts called When Time Needs Mending. You just have to complete a Timerift and you'll get a box of goodies. This box includes a bunch of stuff including paracausal flakes and dilated time capsules, so pick that up before you head into your first Timerift of the week. Now if you're wanting to buy specific things on different characters or just want to try and farm paracausal flakes while gearing up an alt or what have you, you can now trade your paracausal flakes between characters. The gear vendor is also going to sell a box of paracausal flakes. It costs 500 and it will give you 500 when you open it, so you actually don't lose any in the conversion. You just need to buy these crates, mail them to your alts, and then they can open them up easy peasy to get access to your paracausal flakes. Now before we continue, today's video is sponsored by Rise of Kingdoms. Rise of Kingdoms is an epic strategy game that takes players on an immersive journey through various historical eras. Explore and conquer your way across an expansive world map with over 60 million users and 100 million downloads. You can play on mobile or PC with cross-platform support. Battles happen in real time, giving you a true RTS gameplay experience. You can work together with allies to attack a common foe or defend each other in times of need. There are also huge team battles with your alliance where up to 30 players face off against each other. All in-game action takes place on a single map inhabited by players and NPCs, and you have full control over the layout of your city and a wide range of aesthetic options. You can choose from 14 historical civilizations, and the newest addition is Greece. They have exclusive commanders and special units to learn and adapt to. There's also a special Civilization Clash event at Rock.Games, allowing you to compete for your civilization with a chance to win special prizes, including an Apple Vision Pro. So click on the first link in the description or scan the QR code on screen, and don't forget to use the promo code Greece4Rock for 20 silver keys. You can participate in the Civilization Clash event by using the second link to fight for your civilization and win special prizes, so download Rise of Kingdoms today. Now getting back to the video, something super important about the Timerift gear is that it can actually be used in the Revival Catalyst. If you aren't aware, the Catalyst will let you turn gear from specific sources into tier set gear, which will provide you with powerful set bonuses. So not every piece of gear works in the Catalyst. Usually the stuff that does work is a little harder to obtain, like raid gear or Mythic Plus gear. For open world players, the only real source of gear that worked in the Catalyst before this patch came from the Farak Assaults. That gear was kind of random, making it hard to get the pieces you really want. The Timerift gear is completely different. You can buy whatever piece of gear you want and upgrade it in the Catalyst to whichever tier set piece you might still need. So that's a great little extra if you still don't have your full tier set equipped just yet. And then I'm going to squeeze this in here because while it's not necessarily related to increasing your item level in gear, I do think it's potentially quite valuable because you can unlock both the LFR and the normal raid tier transmog sets by using the Timerift gear as well. If you buy the item and convert it to a tier set piece using the catalyst right away, that will unlock the LFR appearance for you, and then if you then upgrade that item to item level 415, it will unlock the normal appearance for you as well. So if you love transmog hunting and want all of these color variations for the current raid set, the Timerift gear is one of the easiest ways to get the LFR and normal transmog unlocks in one fell swoop. Now moving on, this patch also introduced the Dawn of the Infinite megadungeon. This gives you another option for gearing up. Every boss can drop item level 437 gear, which can then be upgraded to 441. So if you want high raid level gear without having to actually go into the raid, the megadungeon could be just for you. There are 8 bosses, so lots of chances at loot, and each boss also drops 5 aspect crest fragments, which can help you with upgrading your other gear as well. If you can manage the hard mode, which includes getting some items throughout the run, doing a little bit of extra work on the last boss, and completing the entire run without anyone dying, the last boss will drop item level 441 gear that can be upgraded to 447. So that can be a huge upgrade if you're capable of running the entire dungeon without dying, which is quite a tall ask with it being so new. If you need an extra helping hand with progressing through the Mega Dungeon, we do have a full guide that goes over all of the bosses. You can find a link to that in the comments section below, so hopefully that helps you get through some of the harder bosses in there. Now, if you're looking for some other big gear upgrades, the Aberrus raid still offers very high item level gear. Normal mode drops item level 415 to 424, Heroic can drop 428 to 437, and Mythic can drop 441 to 450. So the higher you can progress through the raid, the better gear you are going to get. You can also hop straight into LFR if you want to. The gear is going to be a bit lower though. It starts at 402 and goes up to 411, so you're not actually going to get much better gear from doing LFR versus something like the Timerifts. The special trinkets from the raid could be nice, and the last boss drops some interesting items, including a chance at the legendary for evokers, but apart from that, you're not going to see any big upgrades from running LFR, so raid is mostly the same as it was before 10.1. The only new thing in this patch related to raid gearing is for the top end of players. Items that drop at eye level 441 or 444 will be on a new upgrade track that lets you upgrade the loot to item level 447. For heroic mode, this only covers a few very specific items like the class trinkets or the Sarkareth cloak, so it's still useful, just not as impactful as it is for mythic raid loot. Almost everything from the earlier bosses on mythic can now be upgraded to 447, making early mythic bosses much better in general when it comes to loot. The other major player in endgame gearing is still Mythic Plus dungeons. The item level rewards you can get from the end of dungeon chest caps out at 431 item level, which is from a plus 19 key. So in dungeon rewards haven't changed, but they're still an incredible source of higher item level gear if you can push those higher keys. But there is another piece to this puzzle, which did change with this patch. As you run Mythic Plus keys, you'll start filling up your weekly vault reward row for dungeons. You need to get 1 key to get the first reward, 4 to get the second, and 8 to get all 3 options in your weekly vault. So the higher keys you run, the higher rewards you can get. I'll pop a little chart up on screen so it's really easy to see what key level can get you in the weekly vault. The main change here is that getting an item level 441 piece of gear is almost the same as getting an item level 447 piece of gear thanks to that new myth upgrade track. You can upgrade 441 or 444 up to 447, which means you no longer need to run plus 20 keys to get the best gear out of your weekly vault. Running plus 16 keys is easier, faster, and more reliable. There are probably also more groups running for the lower keys, and you're more likely to get accepted into a lower key. Plus 16 keys reward you with 441 gear in the weekly vault, so that's all you really need to do to get the very best gear from Mythic Plus now. You'll just have to do a bit of upgrading to get the item to 447. So if you can, getting a plus 16 key done is probably the easiest way to get some of the best gear in the game right now. I think it's also important to talk about crafting and crafted gear, because this is way more accessible when compared to the previous season, and there are a lot of sparks floating around right now. You should always aim to get your gear crafted at rank 5, which is really easy for any long-term crafters nowadays, so gear crafted with a spark of Shadow Flame starts at item level 424, which is huge. You don't need anything extra, you just need the profession materials, so no raiding or Mythic Plus, no higher end content, all you really need is that spark. You can get sparks from the weekly quest in Loam or from the catch-up system, we'll talk about that in just a moment. So one spark is an easy piece of 424 gear and you can choose the stats on it, so it's always going to be a perfect piece. You can then also upgrade this gear further if you gain access to Worm Crests or Aspect Crests by getting an enchanter to craft an enchanted crest using Worm or Aspect Crests. You'll do that with a crafting order. Worm Crests are going to let you upgrade crafted gear to 437, while Aspect Crests let you bump it up even further to 447, which rivals some of the best gear in the game. If you decide to go for those plus 16 keys that we mentioned earlier, that's enough to get Aspect Crests. The megadungeon also drops aspect crests from each boss, so there are quite a few different ways to get your hands on these upgrade materials, which then unlock some of the best gear in the game for you. Now, thanks to the Spark catch-up system, you can loot splintered sparks from all kinds of content, including raid bosses, Mythic Plus dungeons, Dawn of the Infinite dungeon bosses, Farak assaults, the Researchers Under Fire event, the new world boss, so all sorts of content, most of which is very accessible. So if you're playing the game, you should be getting these pretty quickly. 2 splinters equals 1 spark, so you don't have to wait for the half spark per week like we did at the start of the patch. So gearing up through crafted gear can be super fast right now, with huge upgrade potential if you do run some higher Mythic Plus keys or take part in some higher types of content later on. And then there's one last option for obtaining some gear that is brand new this week. There's a new gear box that's available from PvP vendors in Valdrakken. This will cost you 375 conquest and contains a random piece of item level 408 PvP gear. You will also need to be Challenger 2 to buy these boxes. Then there's also a Mythic Plus gearbox from Spinsoa down in Loam. These will cost you 250 flight stones. It will contain a random piece of item level 398 gear. You also need to have at least 1000 Mythic Plus rating to buy these boxes. Now you may be thinking that's pretty low item level, but both of these boxes are bind on account, which means you can send them to your alts to help them quickly gear up. Now personally, I'm not sure these boxes are still worth your time. Timerift gear is targetable, so you can get the exact piece you want, whereas these boxes are random. It's also a higher item level, just barely, but that does put it on the higher upgrade track. The Mythic Plus boxes especially are quite low, so you can actually only upgrade them to item level 411. They're great if you are swimming in flight stones and want some very quick upgrades for a brand new alt, but past that, I'm not sure they're super duper worth it, honestly. If they were item level 402, it would be a different story, but that slight item level difference ends up having a huge impact when you look at fully upgrading this stuff. So if you're looking to gear up an alt quickly and at least have an option of what gear to get and when, I would probably look more towards the Timerifts instead of these new gear boxes, but they're there if you want to make use of them. So that's all of the ways you can gear up in the current patch, how far you can get, how easy it all is, and what options you have for quickly getting your alts caught up to speed. But the last thing I want to talk about in this video is how much effort you should put into gearing up right now. The next patch, 10.17, is already up on the PTR and has started its testing cycle. The patch seems very focused on catch-up mechanics, including some new gearing options that let you get even higher item level gear. The new events coming currently reward you with item level 415 gear, which should be on the champion upgrade track, which means they will be upgradable up to item level 437, assuming you can get your hands on the appropriate crests. That's pretty crazy for open world events. This is definitely going to be another massive gear farm like we had in 10.07 and the Forbidden Reach. So if you are around for that, you know we'll have rare farming trains, events will go by super fast, and gearing up will be really easy. So with that in mind, if you're pushing the higher tiers of gear, working on the raid in heroic or mythic mode, doing the new mega dungeon on mythic mode, maybe even the hard mode to get that 441 gear, that will still be the best gear in the game in the next patch, so you won't really be able to replace or beat that stuff with 10.1.7 catch-up systems. But if you're at the lower ends of gear, I would maybe just wait. Focus on things like crafting gear, which do have a lot of potential, but it all depends on you, whether you're engaging with these systems naturally or not, and how much time you have to play. But I really wouldn't worry too much about gearing up right now, unless you are already pushing those higher tiers. 10.1.7 will be so much faster and easier, and you're going to get better gear, so I'd probably just wait for that. That's just my 2 cents though. You can play however you want. But that's all of the ways you can gear up in patch 10.1.5, so that's it for this video. Are you going to focus on gearing up right now, or maybe just hold off until 10.1.7? Do you think there are too many gearing options in the game, and is gear too easy to get with all of these systems in place? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all our members here on YouTube. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find links in the description over to Patreon or click the join button just below this video. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.